Okay, now in this next video, what I'm going to demonstrate is how to get the count of elements by their tag name. This is going to be very important before getting into entering and inputting data into a web form field. Now, and let me explain to you what I did and what I worked on for this video. I created a function that will give us the ability to just call one line of code to get the count by the tag name. Let me show you what I mean really quick. So we're going to navigate to the same website that we've been working with. This is the exact same code. I just copied and pasted it into a command. And what I'm going to do different though is at the very end, after the page loads, I'm going to do message box, and I'm going to call that function get count by tag name, and I'm going to pass over the object IE, and I'm going to put under what tag name, I'm going to put look for all the A tags. Now I did add one thing different in this code. I put dim object IE as object. Before you pass an object over to a function, you must declare it as an object, and that is something that I overlooked in my previous videos where I didn't declare it as an object. I was only doing create object, but before create object, you want to put dim object IE, the name of your object, as object. And so now we're going to do message box get count by tag name, the object, and then we're looking for all the A tags. So if I hit F5 or play, and this is the command button where I have the code, get count, we're going to get a notification, a message box, and that says 93. So there are 93 links in this web page. Now let's just say I wanted to get all of the form tag names. So in this case, let me just do view source so I can show you what I mean. And if I look at the source, and let's say I look at the forms. Let's just say I want to get a count of all the forms that are in there, because in the next video, what I'm going to be looking at is the form for entering in a item number or a name for search. So I'm going to have to look through these forms, and in order to do that, I'm going to need the count just to make things a little bit easier. So let me see if I get a count of the forms, so I can show you what this does. I can just have that A, change it to form, and hit F5. Again, do the get count, and we'll get that there's a total of 6 forms on this page. They may not all be visible to us, but there are 6 forms in the code that we'll have to navigate through. So let me show you how I built this code and how this works. Get count by tag name. Here is the code. This code can be a public function where, let's say I put it into my program module. In this case, I have it embedded into the user form, but I could easily get this code, put it into my program module. I could put it at the very, very top, and I will still be able to access this code from here. And I'm just going to give you that quick demonstration. Hit get count, and we see it still does the same exact thing. So now, let me explain to you what this code does. First off, to build a function, I have showed that in a previous video, but if this is the only video that you're watching right now, you just type in function, let's say your function name, and then just do open parentheses, close parentheses, and hit enter, and you'll automatically get end function. The parameters that we're going to ask for though are object IE as object and what tag name as string. These values can be whatever you want, but if you were to change this, then you will have to change it inside the code here. You would have to change these as well, object IE. And all we're doing here is we're asking that the user gives us an object that's already open, in this case the internet window that we already have open. We're setting the function to have a value of 0 because we don't want to return a positive value if there's actually no tag names that no tag names that were found. We create a variable that says the count is equal to -1, And the reason behind this is because we're going to create a loop right here, and the very first thing that we do inside the loop is do the count is equal to the count plus 1. So starting with -1 plus 1, we're starting with the value 0. The reason we start with the value 0 is because whenever you're looking at items inside the web code, the index, it starts off like a list box index or a combo box index where the value starts at 0. So the count on the very first time the loop comes around is going to be a 0. So we do set form is equal to object IE dot document dot get elements by tag name. What tag name is a parameter that we're going to be looking for? And then it's going to be dot item and then the count. So the very first time this comes around, the count's going to be set to 0. This specific line right here, A is equal to form dot name. If there is not a form, I'm going to use form for example in this example. I'm going to say that we're calling a form. And I should have changed this name. This was a name that I created the first time I was building the code. This can really be the element. And I can do A is equal to the element dot name. There, I'm going to leave it like that. So set the element is equal to object IE dot document dot get element by tag name. And so then we're looking for what tag name and then the count. This string is going to cause the system to have an error if that item does not exist. And if it doesn't exist, then what the system will do, it'll just proceed until the err.number does not equal to 0. And this is going to be a little bit confusing if you're not familiar with error handling. So hopefully you're following this tutorial starting from video 1 coming up until now. Otherwise this is not going to make sense. But err.number is going to be 0 anytime there is no error found. So if no error is found, then that means that the element still exists. Because the element still exists, then we're going to do get count by tag name is equal to the count plus 1. And that's going to be this inside variable right here. We're going to loop all of this code until err.number does not equal to 0. So pretty much all this means that we're going to call this code over and over and over again until this line right here causes an error. Once it causes an error, we know that we're out of forms. There's nowhere to count anymore. And then it's just going to return this last value, get count by tag name, to the count that's on the actual web form. Hopefully that makes sense. It's really complicated though. I mean, it's only a few lines of code, but this is going to be very complicated if you're not familiar with error handling, do events, variables, or getting elements by tag name. So hopefully you're following this video starting from video 1. If this is your first video that you're watching, this probably is not going to make that much sense. But again, if you don't really care for this to even make sense, then you can just copy this code right here, just paste it into your module or to your user form, and in your command button, all you have to do is just this one line of code. And you can change this to a message box, or you can change it to a variable. The value is equal to get count by tag name, and then just the object IE, and then whatever tag you're looking at. This is going to be a little prerequisite to our next video, which in the next video we're going to talk about entering and inputting data into a web form field.